Channel 10.
We used to be like CNN, Channel 10. And we used to think that people would catch on. But if you're not from Queens, if you don't got Time Warner or whatever, like, well, I didn't know that.
Do it, yo. Yo, word up, man. It's different channels, son. Word up, on, man. Word up, watch the channel, son. Different plane now, man.
It's all good.
Word up, all good, baby, in every hood, son. Word up, yo. CNN, Network, Channel 10. It's on again. Street niggas is grown men. Bold face, get in your face. Stay in place, yo, crime lace. Cast more beef than Scarface. CNN, Network, Channel 10. It's on again. Street niggas that's grown men. Bold face, get in your face. Stay in place, yo, crime lace.
We are back once again. This is the Channel 10 podcast. It is I, SinGuard Superior, and I am not alongside the almighty AR, who is still on hiatus. So please give some love to the almighty AR on Twitter, or at thealmightyar.com, or wherever you stream your music via 410 Music Factory or whatever like that. But I do have a very special guest today. I have Real, who is the co-host of a new podcast entitled the We Will Never Be Famous podcast. Real, say what's good to the people.
Yeah, it was good. Always real. Always real. Good to be here. Glad to be here.
Cool, man. And you and your co-host Lucky just dropped your first episode up on SoundCloud right now. Go and check that out.
Yeah.
And
please go check that out.
Yeah, check that out. Pretty interesting episode talking about having your views on Funkmaster Flex and stuff like that. Certain things you said about certain celebrities. I remember when you guys were talking about like your top 5 Marvel movies or whatever like that. Yeah. You were talking about how all the women in the movies were like just sexy, even like if they were in different colors.
Yeah. Yeah, Paula Patton and Paula Patton and Zoe Saldana. We were talking about how gorgeous these women were, and it's ridiculous because they have been multiple colors in movies, greens and blues. Currently, I think she's green in Guardians of the Galaxy, Zoe Saldana is, and they're still insanely hot. So it just even says something to the comic book loving nerds of America that the button just keeps being pressed no matter what color the girl is. But these two women in particular are ridiculously hot no matter what color they are. So yeah, we had to speak on that, definitely so.
That's what's up, and it just goes to show you guys don't discriminate, literally.
Oh, absolutely. No, we can't. I mean, because if you like comic books, because of the escapism, who knows what drew you to, comic books in the first place. So, the escapism, so, you may have a particular universe that, like Lucky, for example, he's an X-Men guy. So the women that he would have found attractive in the X-Men universe, could essentially kill him by accident. If they were real. So you can't discriminate, with our particular creed. You can't discriminate. Green chicks are hot, man. I mean, they fight, you know what I mean? They're usually really strong. I mean, let's get it. I take a green chick. Let's do that.
Well, yeah, I feel you. But, all right, so for example, I don't really watch, like, the Marvel movies. And, I think I've watched maybe, like, the first 2 X-Men movies or whatever like that. But I think it was the first movie. It was Paula Patton, the one who was blue.
Paula Patton was let me see. Paula Patton was green in Warcraft. Zoe Saldana was in Avatar. She was blue, and I think she's green in Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think they were in the X-Men movie.
All right. Well, it was some woman from the X-Men, like who was in the X-Men movie, and like she was like blue, or whatever like that. Her hair was like slicked back.
Yeah, Mystique. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the body was okay, but like the skin, the skin was kind of scaly.
But see, the beautiful thing about Mystique is though, right? Like now, see, I feel you on that, all right? And the interesting thing is in the movies, because if you saw the first 2, and if anybody is listening to this podcast, to this now, they remember the first 2 X-Men, they'll be like, yeah. So if you only saw the first 2 X-Men, there's no wonder you didn't watch any of the rest of the Marvel Universe movies because the first 2 X-Men were terrible. But when it comes to Mystique, though, as the story developed and then expanded on the universe and, got new writers and stuff, what made it cool was they tried to get her comfortable in her own skin. But beyond all of that, right, If you can make her comfortable, she can be whoever you want her to be. So, like, if you're not feeling the scaly skin on Monday night, you know what I mean? Hey, baby, can you be, whoever you want her to be? Pick a person, and that's who she'll be. Like, Mystique is like a good person to have that type of Marvel comic crush on, because she could be whomever at any time, and that is like the dopest. I actually forgot all about Mystique. Yeah, you're right. And then Jennifer Lawrence playing her currently, and I can't, Rebecca Romaine Stamos, I think it was, who played it originally. Both of those people are insanely hot. So, yeah, I could do a Mystique, and pun intended.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, I'm just, well, yeah, but then, what if you have like a girl who has like, a split personality or something like that? Wouldn't that be like the same? Like, this is like, like being Mystique, but only in the mind?
Well, then that's when you got a problem. Being Mystique only in the mind. Like, I mean, because if you switching back and forth between personalities and I can't see it, then I'm just confused. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you, you become different people, and I see that you're going through your emotions. Okay, baby, you tripping. I see that. You having an episode. I'm going to holler at you later. Text me when you get yourself together. I can do that if I can see it. But if we're in the middle of a conversation, she just starts spazzing out. I don't care what Marvel or what universe you're from. That's just, that's too much for me. That's too much for me. My Marvel Universe crushes are all just powerful. Because I'm really a DC, excuse me, sorry about that. I'm a DC comic fan. That's where, that's my indoctrination in the comic books was like Superman and Batman. So I like women power. I like powerful women. So like Wonder Woman was always the shit to me. You know what I mean? Like she's like a bred warrior. You know what I mean? Like she's like all that fighting and high octane ass kicking. That's like she loves it. Like she in the comics she like smile, right, wipe the blood from her lip and just keep going. You know what I mean? So for me, it's not really the wild ones. I mean, again, outside of Mystique, Zoe Saldana, and, Paula Patton, outside of them, I usually go for, power. I like power. Definitely into the powerful women, because I wanted to be like, somebody clown me. I'm like, I'm going to get my girl over here. They're like, oh, yo, go get her. Yo, a bitch. All right, and then she come over here and pick up a truck, you know what I mean, hurl it at you. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, that's hella love on the block right there. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm into it for the strong chicks, not the schizos. None of that.
No.
So I'm sorry. I was gonna ask you. So I know you don't watch the Marvel, but there's no fantasy genre where you like, damn. You know what I mean? Like you ain't have a Hermione thing, Harry Potter. You know what I mean? Nothing.
I mean, well, no, not with, not with, like, I mean, I was in, like, the anime, like, a little bit, so I would watch Toonami or whatever like that, and I was in, like, the Yu-Gi-Oh! If that's fantasy enough, but, like, when it came to me, like, my form of escape, that's, like, how it got deeper into history, so, like, watching history documentaries when I was a kid, with the History Channel and stuff like that, different things on, like, different wars and, particularly, like, different Native American, tribes. Because
yeah, thing for like Sacagawea or something like that.
yeah,
my bad.
Something like that. I've kept some coins around here and there.
Right.
Sacagawea coin.
My bad.
But I had some dimes in between though. But
right, yeah, exactly. That was perfect.
Oh man. but
my bad. But that's how you got now. That's what's up.
For me, like looking at different cultures and how people lived in different cultures, different periods, I thought it was fascinating. And for me, that was like kind of like my form of escape. Like imagining. Like if I went to a museum and seeing like, I don't know, like some beads or something, I don't know, and just saying, wow, like this, this shit has been here, way before I was even thought of. And, right. It was in the hands of all kinds of different people who I will never see, but yet we talk about, stuff like that.
Right.
And so,
okay.
So, I think for me that, it still continues, I feel like, because sometimes every so often, since YouTube has everything, you know, I'll go and look up like one of those old documentaries or whatever like that. I'm just like, you know, wow, like I remember like this exact like documentary on, you know, the war, like the Revolutionary War or some shit like that when I was like 4 or some shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That just makes me feel like you like such a dumbass. Like when you yo man, I was 4 years old, man. I was watching a documentary on the Revolutionary War. I was 4 years old. I was like watching like Heathcliff. And you know what I mean? Like shit like that, like the Ghostbusters TV show. You know what I'm saying? Like, dang, dude. So no, that's what's up though. Like for real. Like, I couldn't focus enough to be a pure academic. You know what I mean? Like I just couldn't. I can't focus enough. You know what I mean? And history though is always fascinating to me. You know, that was one of the, you know, because there's always like the quote unquote boring classes, right? Mm-hmm. But history wasn't one of the boring classes to me because history was fascinating in the sense that I always look for patterns and things because I'm OCD, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever we go through, and I would have like these history classes, like I had this one really bugged out history class when I was going to Northwestern, and like, I swear we talked about the Holocaust, which was odd because of where Northwestern is. And then the students that were actually in the class, we talked about the Holocaust quite a bit. We even went to the Holocaust Museum as a field trip. And right, it's kind of deep when you really think about it. Because then I had an African-American history class, which was completely separate from this class. It was taught by a white woman. So I would go to... Which is not, you know, the same thing, but it's just, again, if you know where Northwestern is, you know, it's pretty much on Park Heights. Mm-hmm. The majority of the students are just African Americans. I had one class where they're talking about the Holocaust, and there's absolutely no Jewish people in this classroom. Well, I guess me. You know what I'm saying? And then I have this African American history class that's being taught by a white teacher. So what made all of that interesting is both the teachers were white, and the way that they spoke about each event, they both spoke about, excuse me, the one teacher, the female, Miss White, and I'm not being funny, that was actually her name. She spoke about, like, she spoke about slavery and all of these other things, and she was just like, yeah, and it was just so bad, you know, and like, she was just saying, like, okay, y'all know that this is terrible, this is the curriculum. But when, I think his name was Horowitz, when Mr. Horowitz was talking about the Holocaust, man, the passion that he brought to it, and like how he would like try to define, like when we were talking about like Gestapo and like, you know, all of these like, you know, intricate parts of, you know, like the you know, Hitler regime and all of these different type of things. He had so much passion dipped inside of it, like it drew us in, and everybody in that class passed, which is probably like the first time that ever happened at that school. And like everybody in that class passed that particular class, and it made me think deeper into like, you know, that whole experience. Now, what I mean by that is, since you're a history major, I hope this ain't too deep, but you know, people always make this connection between slavery and the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure you've had this conversation. I've had this conversation. Most people have had this conversation. You know, they give a shit. You know what I mean? Most people don't give a fuck. But if they care, they've had this conversation. So I've never had this conversation with you, though. So when you're sitting somewhere and somebody says, hey, man, Jews had it pretty bad, too. How do you feel about that type of statement?
I mean, pretty much I tend to be rather uncomfortable with that statement because, you know, I think they're two totally different things. You know, you have these people, a certain group of peoples who were at least someone who was trying to exterminate this particular group, and then you have these people who were enslaved for, you know, several centuries. So, you know, with that, you know, there are different patterns, you know, just different, everything's different patterns, you know, like certain side effects that maybe are a bit different. And I just think the circumstances, you know, overall just different, right? I mean, they didn't necessarily want to kill, you know, slaves. They wanted to keep them so they can keep working them until they died, you know?
That's right. So,
it's just totally different. So yeah, I don't like when people try to compare, slavery and the Holocaust that way. And I mean, with a lot of historical events also, because they just tend to be, a lot of them tend to be really different.
Okay, I'm devil's advocate, okay? Mm-hmm. I don't have one feeling one way. Well, I do feel one way or the other on it. However, I've absorbed all of it into it's just overall fucked up. And it's sad to see how one group of people can just decide on the fate of another group of people and then actually carry it out. Like, to me, that was the piece of the pattern that was the most amazing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like one group of people just was like, hey, fuck black people. You know what I'm saying? And for the next hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? And then it's going to be like that. And then another person decided, fuck Jews, man. Let's just get rid of them. Let's gas them. Let's burn them. Separate them from their families. Let's rip their teeth out their mouth. Like, it's just insane to me, like, how one individual group of people can just decide the fate and carry it out. Like, how is it possible, as a history buff, how is it possible, that you can, decipher, from the patterns of history, that one race can not only feel more dominant, but carry out any asinine feat with dominance, and no one stops them. Like, this is a whole world here, and it wasn't like people didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like it was a secret. How is it that they can carry out these atrocities and no one does anything about it? Like, how do people get on board with the most horrific things or ignore the most horrific things? Like, how does that happen in history?
I mean, well, that could be really complex. You deal with like certain geopolitical issues when it comes to how countries may have pivoted towards other countries, which may have complicated, other circumstances they had with like other countries or just other issues or whatever like that. But there's this book called like Blood and Soil by like Ben Kernan, and he studies like genocide. He's like at Harvard or something like that. I think Harvard or Yale. And he talks about, he pretty much makes an argument that, there are like certain patterns that people, that different peoples go through that leads them to genocide. So, there's usually like something like bad that and I'm like really just kind of like bastardizing like what he says, and I haven't read in a while, but he says that, something bad happens or whatever like that. This then leads to this certain kind of cultural, this new cultural vigor, right? So not really like a populism, like something like more in depth, like when it comes to, trying to trace back your heritage to like antiquity, right? So it becomes more of like a biological thing, whereas you feel that you are like the master race or the master peoples or something like that, which like leads to to a notion of superiority, and then you find ways to carry out that superiority. So it can begin with kind of politicizing the issue, marginalizing certain peoples politically. And then it could eventually lead to genocide after a while if you can get enough people to get on your side. Now, of course, like this book is like 700 pages, so but he goes all throughout like ancient Rome, to the Holocaust, to different parts in Africa and stuff like that. So he traces it from like antiquity up until like I think the 90s.
Nice.
And he says it's like the same thing over and over again. But he says that the main thing is like this weird, this kind of cultural, racial populism that emerges from some kind of deep-seated feeling that people are trying to forget about. So like, when it comes to Hitler, this Germany after World War I or something like that.
So that's crazy, but there actually is a pattern. Like, that's insane. And to me, it's just like, excuse me, I don't like you doing that. To me, it's just like, if you can figure out why shit happens, isn't that what's supposed to stop it from happening?
Yeah, exactly. And so, so like with Ben Kernan, for example, I mean, the book isn't that, I mean, it's not that old. I think it came out like 2008 or whatever like that, but he has like a genocide he runs like the Center for Genocide Studies, and I guess he's like one of like the founding people of genocide studies in the field of history. And so his whole thing is he wrote the book so he can try to find these patterns, like how you're saying, and then try to stop them. So his whole notion is that if you see people in the country that are following these patterns, he wants to try to reach out or try to help in some kind of way, or have people be aware of like the certain patterns, so maybe someone can stop it from turning into genocide.
So how do you think? I was about to say something fucked up. Look, how do you think that connects to Donald Trump? No, I'm not gonna go there. We don't have to have the Donald Trump conversation. If you don't want to have the Donald Trump conversation, matter of fact, we shouldn't have the Donald Trump conversation, because nothing I say would be eloquent. So let's just leave it alone. Because this motherfucker. But, he's motivating. I will say that. He really leads you to believe you can do anything in life if you just have enough money and put your mind to it. So, and just to switch gears, because this is what I do, and forgive me to all of your fans. We do this a lot on We Will Never Be Famous, where we're talking about one thing and then we just kind of jump completely to the next thing. So I'm sorry, but
well. Speaking of this, so let's focus on this podcast real quick, because this is really why you're here. So all right, okay. We will never be famous.
We will never be famous.
All right. So what's the setup? So it's you, and then it's your co-host Lucky, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
And who is Lucky?
Lucky's my boy. Like, we've known each other, forever. Elementary school, and Lucky is... You know how every televised or popular circle of friends always kind of has that recluse, you know what I mean? The one that's like, you always kind of look at like, did they really just say that? Or you can't believe they just did that? Or, the person who's like always first to say, man, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's yeah. Lucky, and Lucky is, we call him Lucky because he should be dead. And there's no other way to say that to you. But yeah, he should be dead. A lot of things have happened to him, and he's survived. He was changing a tire one time. This is a true story. He was changing a tire one time. Somehow another fell off the blocks. It was a 1988 Lincoln Town Car. Okay, this is a fucking tank. All right? It should have split his head open. It chipped his tooth, and that was it. He walked away. He was changing the tire, so that means there was no tire on there. He was changing the tire. He was underneath of it, falls on his head. All it does is chip his tooth, busts his lip. You can't even tell by looking at him now. So we just been calling him Lucky ever since. That motherfucker's still here. You know what I'm saying? And we will never be famous because, we don't know what to say out of our mouth. You know what I mean? We talk about a bunch of different topics. We get on a bunch of different things, and I'm probably more nice how I try to, introduce things, and I try to be a little more gentle with how I approach things, but it's still just between the two of us, because in all actuality, it's terrible. I'm very upfront and very forward, but between the two of us, like, I'm gentle, so I'm like the nice one, and we just like it. It's just what we do. People kick it with us, they come through, they hang out, and this is before the podcast. They come through, they hang out, and they just like, yo, talking to y'all is hilarious. You know what I'm saying? So we just decided, hey, let's see if other people think that. So, and then we got a great opportunity from the AR, you know what I mean, and put it on with you, with Saint God, and we all fam, so We Will Never Be Famous is just escapism, man. Like, I love podcasts, and a lot of podcasts are very direct. A lot of podcasts, like this podcast is about this, and this podcast is what these people talk about. We kind of don't really want to have that type of structure. There's always something going on, and I look at it like perspective. You know what I'm saying? Just average Joes, two very plain, you know what I'm saying, regular motherfuckers talking about shit, and it's just a different perspective.
Cool. Now, we were talking a bit earlier, and everything, and you were telling me that you guys were doing like some tester episodes before you guys actually eventually went ahead and posted the very first episode. which is up online right now on SoundCloud. You can go to We Will Never Be Famous and check that out.
Never Be Famous. Yes.
And so first of all, how many tester episodes did you guys do, and what was that experience like? I know it can be kind of frustrating at times.
We did a fuck ton. Excuse my language, but we did a lot, dude. Like, I can't even, like, we did so many of these episodes, like, just back to back or, like, for days, like, just kept trying it. And for one reason or another, we weren't satisfied. What became frustrating about it was, honestly, what became frustrating is that we kept trying instead of just doing. The whole premise behind it was to stop talking about it and actually doing it. We were spending so much time trying to make sure we had a sound and trying to make sure, you know what I mean, we had some sort of fluidity and I was talking to him and I said, yo, look, man, we haven't even actually done anything yet. Like, we stressing ourselves out. We going through all this exercise and we not even doing nothing. Like, that's how I look at people to go to the gym. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And they work out all the goddamn time, and, like, you come to find out they like them. I don't know, like, they fold socks at the Gap. Like, they have no aspirations to play sports. Like, this is just what they do. And that's fine, but it's just like, to me, it's like, dude, if you this big, fucking go run a marathon, do the CrossFit challenge, do something. Like, this is just crazy to me. So that's how I felt. You know what I mean? Like, we were just wasting a lot of time instead of just putting out actual product. So what was really frustrating is how we were dooming it, because it was supposed to, first of all, be fun. Like, the first thing, it was supposed to be a good time. But we did a lot of testing, a whole bunch of testers. And we talked about, oh, my gosh, so many things. We had a very in-depth conversation, and I shit you not, about Jessica Rabbit, who is not real, and pardon me, sorry, who is not real. And we had a conversation about Jessica Rabbit, and I can't actually remember who the real person was, but we were talking about how insane it is that Jessica Rabbit is revered as a higher sex symbol than this other person, but for some reason that other person's name is blanking on me. So this is the type of stuff that we talk about. Basically ramblings and ranting, and that's what we had to kind of condense. Try to make it a little more focused on something in particular, but I assure you there are plenty of moments where we just ramble about random nonsensical topics. And that's why we will never be famous.
That's what's up. And because, like, when we first started out, and I was telling you this earlier, you know, and I'm sure a lot of you listeners out there, if you haven't gone back to listen to the very first episodes of the Channel 10 podcast, you know, I wouldn't mind if you don't do it, honestly. But, you know, our first episodes, they were like at least 3 hours apiece, and it was really just us ranting and raving about different things. And I think you really have to, like, get a lot of that out of your system anyway. And just accept that, like, the first few episodes is not going to be good because you know, it's different. Like, although, you know, we're all family, and, you know, you've known you know, Lucky for all these years. I've known, you know, Artic all my life. It's just so different when, you know, you guys have, like, a mic in front of each other or whatever like that, because, you know, it does become a bit more formal, like, at least the talking, and then you just have to try to find that groove. So, you know, like, for example, you know, like, trying to figure out when your co-host or whoever you're talking to is going to stop talking, which is really never anything you can really get down all the way, but you'll just know, or you'll just, like, maybe, like, the way they talk. So when it comes to, like, the Artic, I try to go, you know, because, you know, we do it via Skype. We've only done maybe, I think, about two like, in-person podcasts. Other than that, I usually just try to go off, like, his vocal inflections to see, all right, well, I know he's about to, like, actually expand on this or whatever like that. And think about us, which is probably something that we should have done. We didn't do, like, any kind of we did one tester episode, actually, like, on my phone, like, we were in my living room sitting on the couch. After that, we just went, like, straight for the gusto, and that was the tester episode happened, like, that was almost like 4 months before we actually started the actual podcast. So yeah, but also when it comes to you guys, you also have, you were just telling me you guys have a middle person too, to try to keep you guys, like, on track with everything. So so since you guys have, like, now you guys have, like, this episode out, what other things are you guys thinking about doing in turn when it comes to like the business side of it, and trying to build this We Will Never Be Famous brand around both of you two?
Well, we have this kind of like a restaurant review type of show that we're going to do. It won't necessarily be a show. We're going to be doing that through Facebook, Instagram, just having individuals go to local restaurants. It's called Hella Local. And they'll be just going to local restaurants, Baltimore-based, no chains, unless it's only a chain here in Baltimore. And just testing and tasting the food, you know what I mean? And, you know, giving quick, you know, reviews on it, see how they feel about it, because I love my city, and both of us love this city. So a lot of that is because we just really kind of want to get back to a place that gave us so much, even though it wasn't all good. You know what I mean? We still here. So, and that's what family is. Like, you know, we're part of this city, so we family, and it's not always sweet with family. So you just gotta take it all in stride. And then we really, really want to do, because, you know, of course, we're in the comic books, and we have this entire comic book universe that we've already kind of started, and the characters are actually called They're Real and Lucky, so they're us, but they're like, you know, they kick ass, you know, and that comic's coming out very soon. It's SFC versus the world. SFC means a Still Free Crew, and that basically is something that came out a long time ago. We was, you know, a lot of people was just like dying. They was going to jail, you know what I mean, like around us. Good friends too, and we were still here, you know what I mean? We still free. We still above. Like, we still have an opportunity, and, you know, we just kind of kept it. And we used to tag. So, like, we was bad, but we wasn't that bad. We used to tag a lot. So we would always hit the tag up. So SFC, people might have seen it around. And then I write a lot. So because of that, I have a lot of blogs that, you know, things that I want to put out there. And we are doing this, which is actually AR's idea, for us to do a scripted podcast where it's like a show, like a radio show. And I love that idea because I used to listen to radio. Well, my mom, she used to listen to radio shows. Like, I was born in the 80s, so I'm like old, you know what I mean? So there was like the end of like radio shows, right when I was like, you know, coming out. And like, we used to listen to them on Saturday mornings. You know, she was doing laundry, she would turn the radio on, and it was like these radio shows. And they were awesome. Like, awesome. Like, you were just so immersed in it, and the imagination behind it, because there was nothing to go off of. You just had to hear it, you had to think it, you had to feel it. Like, I thought that was like the best form of storytelling. Like, I always loved it when somebody told me a story. And when they really put into it, and when my mom would be like, you know, reading Dr. Seuss, and she was like all extra with the voices and stuff like that. Like, that was like the best way to hear a story. So we kind of want to give back. It, of course, it's going to be like a satirical type of thing, but that's coming around too. So those are two things we have in the immediate wheelhouse going on right now. We will never be famous. Just doing everything we can, trying to live out the dream. The dream is to make more money for ourselves than we make for someone else. And real quick, before we move on, okay. I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to do my real thing, because this is how I got my name. I want to say about the AR being on hiatus. I'm going to fuck with him because that's what I do, okay? And I can't wait for him to come back, because the AR is, I love hip-hop. Everybody knows I like rap. I love music. And AR, for those who don't know, was at one point in time in my top favorite rappers, and he wasn't famous, right? And based off lyrical content and everything like that, like the AR was in my top 10. I don't want to say top 5. I apologize. He's gonna hear that, be like, "Oh snap! Oh man, motherfucker, yeah, my bad, dog." Top
if
10.
He's listening, you don't know if he's listening to any of these new episodes, honestly, but yeah.
Well, if it comes across, and I wanted to say it because you told everybody to shout him out on Twitter. Yeah, tell him on Twitter. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because the AR is nasty on the mic. He's a very creative dude, and he needs to get back online because he used to kill. And SingGod, as far as, like, the dude, I was in the car with Born just the other day. He let me hear his new project. And the passion behind your beats, yo, like, you know when it's yours. You feel me? Like, y'all dudes is talented. So it's like, me and Luck, man, we always just, like, on the show, every once in a while, we really throw a lot of love at y'all. Because it's an honor to be around such intelligent, talented brothers like y'all. You know what I mean? So everybody, get the AR shit on Twitter. Don't be nice about it. Like, ask him where the fuck you at. Hashtag where you at. That's what I want to see. Because
it's a Boost Mobile.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Trying to tell you, yo, just like Boost Mobile, where you at? Because we got to get him back. You know what I mean? Like, he was really killing. And I would like to see him back in position. And we did an episode of like a secret tape with the AR and SynGod. Me and Luck did, and it was very rough. But we had a great time doing it. So I need them to come back. So I want people to really blast the AR on Twitter and everything. Just give them the business. Let them know. I'm sorry, I had to jump in and say that.
Oh, no doubt. I appreciate it, man. It's now officially a lost episode. I think, for y'all, so I know, like, ever since, like, well, I know we recently just put out, like, the 60 East episode. Well, that was like 19 days ago at this point, but still. Before that, though, we hadn't dropped in, like, a little over a month. Whatever like that, but we were doing episodes, so like we have a stash, and the stash is going to start slowly but surely coming out. I gotta edit them now, but we did this lost episode with Real and with Lucky, you know, really talking about the We Will Never Be Famous podcast, and of course there was a whole bunch of other fuckery on this episode, and I went back and listened to it, and you know, for certain reasons. I just don't feel comfortable putting it out until Arctic comes back and tells me, all right, yeah, we can do that. So,
so that's why y'all got to give him shit, man. Everybody got to call him out because this is a dope episode. It's hilarious.
It is pretty funny, but I am 99.9% sure that if it does come out, you will probably only hear about 50% of it. It was a while. It was like a good 2-3 hour episode, like from back in the old days. If anyone was listening, well, we only had like 5 listeners anyway, but still, yeah. So yeah, that was a fun episode though. Like just really just talking off the fly, just saying whatever.
Yeah, it was good, and that's what we get a lot of on our show. And that's why I ask a lot of questions, because I asked SynGod a lot of questions, and that's why I asked you so many questions about the podcast structure. You know, and you did give me good advice. Like, you just, you know, let it come organically, let it work naturally. And like I said, we've been kind of learning that lesson the whole time. But yeah, like we have topics, and we'll literally have like a Post-it, right? And it'll be like 4, maybe 5 different things that we know we're going to talk about. But we will fill in like 2 hours because we'll talk about those things like real quick, and then it'll lead to some random thought, and then it'll just go and go and go. And so you got to forgive the structure because we're in that first bracket, like SynGod was talking about. Like we're in that first bracket. You know, when we're just starting out, we're a little raw, we're a little fresh, but we enjoy it. It's great, and that's what we want to do. We just want to. It's like you come to the neighborhood, you kicking it with us. That's what We Will Never Be Famous is. Like you're sitting on the porch, you know what I mean? You hanging out, you know what I mean? Throwing back a brew or something like that, and you just talking with your homies. Like that's how we want our show to be. You just kicking it with us, like just relax. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about being PC. Ain't nobody listening. It's just us, rap. And I mean, even though people listening, don't even worry about that. We don't even worry about that. Just come kick it with us. Come kick it with us. Because we really want to get it to the point where we can do like, you know, like call-ins every once in a while, not regularly, but like every once in a while. You know what I mean? Because we really want to do streams, you know, stuff like that. Like we really into this. Like we really enjoy this. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Losers Revolt type of situation. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, like I guess like since we've been doing we've been doing this for like I think 2 years now, and it's still fun, but then you know there's like, you know, like the work involved. Sometimes it's just like, god damn. And, you know, that's mainly with like the editing or whatever like that. So I'm pretty sure eventually, once when you guys get to like a year, you all will be like, oh shit. But I think it's different though, because it'll probably be a bit different because do you guys like intend to have guests on the podcast like frequently or not at all? Just y'all?
Oh yeah. No, we actually we want to do one a week. And it won't be like special guests, you know. That we're not going to get anybody famous or recognized for probably quite some time. But yeah, we definitely want to have people on. Like I said, it's all about communication. Like we just want people to communicate. Me and Lucky barely ever agree on things. And that's the truth. And we actually talked about with the show structure. We talked about that. I said, look, if you disagree, just disagree. It's cool, but we argue all the time. Like we homies, so it never goes anywhere. But we argue all the time, so it's like I want him to show that on the show because people have to be able to communicate. Like you got to be able to argue with people. So we want to bring people on. Oh, I mean, not argue, but you got to be able to disagree with people.
Right.
Because it's not really about. It's all about understanding. Like you don't have like proving the point is just being understood. Like it doesn't mean now you think what I want you to think. No, it just means you understand what I'm thinking, and that right there opens up communication. So we want to have people on where we talk about, like for example, I want to get my brother on there, Tony, and the reason being is me and Tony were raised by single parents. He was raised by his father, where I was raised by my mother, and I never thought, and this is going to sound funny as shit, but I never thought that I was soft, you know, like really like that until I started hanging with Tony. You know, we kicked it a little while ago, and we wound up going to a strip club. And I mean, it's okay. The appropriate people that need to know that I was there. But we go to the strip club, and I noticed like I was like saying, "Excuse me," "Oh, I'm sorry," "Oh, pardon me," you know, stuff like that. And he just like he wasn't. I'm just gonna say that he wasn't being disrespectful, but it was just completely different at how we were interacting in this strip club. I told him, I said, yo, dude, man, you was raised by a guy. Like, he was just, and he was comfortable. Like, I'm all, like, bashful and shit. Like, this girl just, like, walking around with no top on, right? And she just, like, having a regular conversation. And I'm, like, looking up towards the TV and shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it's not because I got a problem with, you know, females. It's just, like, I told him, I said, yo, I was raised by all women, dude. This was, like, the den of sin. You know what I mean? I was in Hell's Kitchen in that equation. You know, this was all the places they were just trying to make sure I never went. So it's just kind of, I want him on the show because he gives a different perspective, because we grew up the same, but that minor difference like makes him react and say things that to me are hilarious. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And those subtle points of upbringing, like I'm fascinated by the human experience. So it's like those subtle points, you know what I mean? They really shine through. So, like, I want to have him on the show. So when we have guests, it'll just be, like, stuff like that for right now. Just another perspective, another form, another opinion. That's all.
Now, I was going to say that, I guess I was going to say this earlier, that I would imagine that the reason why you tend to like these strong women characters in comic books and in movies is because of your upbringing, you know, pretty much being raised by all women.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Strong women in my family, all of them. Like, all the women in my family are really strong, independent. They do shit on their own. And it stuck with me. You know what I mean? Like, Serena Williams, oh, my God. You know what I mean? Like, Ronda Rousey could kick your ass, bro. Like, I'm saying. Like, this is the type of thing, like, I like it. You know what I mean? And I dig it. And it doesn't just have to be that. Like, somebody that's about theirs. You know what I mean? Just on top of their game. Like, it's all these fronting independent women shaking their head around. Hey, you bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, you the first nigga crying when Tony don't call you back. You know what I mean? But, you know, there's some women out here, and I'm not even talking about, like, a long relationship. He just didn't call you back. You know what I mean? There's some women out here that's really doing it, you know, and making it happen all by themselves. They do wonderful, amazing things. I can't handle pushover female. I need somebody to take care of me. Then you don't need me. I'm sorry. I'm just not into it. I like a strong, you know, locked and loaded female. Shit is what's up to me. Mm-hmm. I can't stand no soft shit. Can't stand it.
Now, when it comes to you guys recording, you said that you guys want to record with like 3 days a week.
We try and do 3 days a week. Yeah, we try and do 3 days a week. And it's not because honestly, because we got a lot of shit honestly, it just never stops coming. Like, when we were doing the testers and everything, we were calling each other like 2 or 3 times a day. Yo, you know, I had this other idea, we should talk about this. Yeah, I had this other idea, we should talk about this. Yeah, I had this other idea, we should talk about this. And we still have all of that stuff saved up. But because it was so terrible, we just go back to it and, you know, we pull the ideas out of that and we're just going to use them. Like, you know, we're going to talk about it again. But because we have some semblance of a structure now, to at least start with, you know, we're still going to, you know, use a lot of that information. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot to talk about, and we really love this. You know, I go to work every day, and I hate what I do, but I like doing this. So putting 3 days aside, yeah, let's do that. I got 2 kids, and I still make it jump. I'm telling you, like, we love doing this. It's a really good time.
Yeah, shit. I mean, yeah, that's a lot. Recording 3 days a week, god damn.
Yeah, it'll probably be 2 because as I'm saying this, we were supposed to record tonight, but I'm, you know, I still am. I don't know what's up with Lucky right now. He with AR. Man, they met up. They hanging out having coffee or something. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we 3 days a week. Not necessarily in the Wednesday, the midweek show or recording. Was more like to keep pace. If there was something that we really wanted to kind of say before the end of the week, we want to just kind of jump in there and say it. And then because when you get to Friday, I mean, because like I said, we regular dudes, so we got jobs. Like, we literally vent about how annoying work was and stuff like that. So, you know, that's where we get the Friday show from. It'll probably condense over time. But for right now, yeah, 3 days a week is definitely what's up. And that way we can keep the shows shorter, actually, because they were too long. So if we're doing 3 days a week, we trying to get them to be about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, yeah, because this first episode was like, I think 33 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Trying to do better.
I mean, like, there's this podcaster, the Afro Daily, and usually, like, it seems like from whenever I listen to it every so often, it's usually him driving to work, and it's just him like venting about like shit that happens at his job or his personal life. So I feel like with every man, like, black man podcast out there, it usually, you know, eventually trickles down to talking about your job or something like that.
Because working sucks, bro. I remember reading, matter of fact, I'm going to tell you for real, and this is actually what brought me to talk about AR's rapping. He had this song, I'm from Baltimore, like that joint.
So it sounds like a lot of songs.
No, that was right. I was going to say, no, that wasn't the right one. It was the one he was talking about, my stomach is growling, I gotta get this money. Nigga, you a wildin', trying to take it from me. Yeah, that song right there, I used to play that when I was working in the mall before the store opened. I'd blast that song. He never believed me, but I did. And my whole staff was on it because I managed that store. My whole staff co-managed. That store, my whole staff was on it. Like, I played it all the time. And it was like he said in that song, you know, I'm working, and it's like, no matter what he does, no matter what you do, you're going to make that company way more money than you making yourself. And, like, I always thought about that. Like, I mean, it wasn't like something I didn't know. You know, I always thought about it. It always comes up. So that's why we motivated, you know what I mean? And that's why we doing what we're doing right now, man. Like, because working sucks, man, especially when you're never going to see the benefits that the person that you work for sees. You know what I mean? And what you do is you working to get along. Like, I don't want to get along. You know what I mean? In that regard. You know, if I'm a struggle, it's going to be my struggle, not yours. You know what I mean? If I'm going to bust my ass, it's going to be for my passion, not yours. Unless we share a vision. You know, like, I just want to do something that I love. Like, people want to be police officers. If you become a cop and you've always wanted to be a cop, you know what I mean, and you're a good, solid police officer, you should go do that. Do what you love. You want to be a chef, you want to be a fucking garbage man, I don't care. You want to do what you love, and that's what we doing. We're just trying to do what we love. We had an interesting conversation about cops the other day, how police officers tend to forget that they are customer service. and the individual that you were speaking of that we brought in, we'll just say G. We call her Reggie too, Reggie. She said it's even worse because they're public servants. So they work for us. And it's like they don't seem to recognize that. Like they're the lowest form of customer service. They're public servants. So in the same regard of if you see, like after a parade, the guy that's picking up the horse shit, he's a public servant, just like a police officer is. So I don't know what made me just talk about that. I'm sorry. That's why we never be famous.
Feeling is here.
Yeah, son, you feel it, man. What up, son? You gotta just do it, yo. Yo, what up, man? It's a different channel, son. What up, on, man? What up? Watch the channel, son. Different plane now, man.
It's all good.
What up? All good, baby, in every hood, son. What up, yo? CNN, Network, Channel 10. It's on again. Street niggas, it's grown men. Bold face, gat in your face. Stay in place, yo, crime lace. Cats more beef than Scarface. CNN, Network, Channel 10. It's on again. Street niggas, that's grown men. Bold face, gat in your face. Stay in place, yo, crime lace. Cats more beef.